Hi, church family. Thank you for joining us. For many weeks now, we've been providing weekly devotionals that have been shared by our pastors, by our staff, by some of our teachers. But just last week, we started to share some devotionals that were shared by you, our SBCC family. We know in this season of COVID-19, of social and racial injustice, you guys have been facing a lot of struggles. But in those struggles, you've seen God move in some incredible ways. And we wanted to share some of those stories with you. Just last week we heard from Dr. Jack Tsai, and Dr. Jack has been facing a lot of fears in bringing this virus home to his wife and his two young children. And this week you're going to hear from Jolene Brandt. Jolene has been a part of our church for a number of years now. She has served as a leader in some of our life groups. And Jolene has been married for 8 years to her husband Chuck. They have a beautiful young daughter Zoe, who's 3 years old. And in this season, Jolene's work as an actress has been put on hold. Her husband, who works for Disney, has been furloughed. And as she filmed this video, which was earlier in the stay-at-home orders, she was facing some struggles, and we think many of those struggles you can relate to. As Jolene shared in this, is that she has seen God come through in so many different ways and has blessed her, even if at some times she's had to use a magnifying glass to see those blessings. So without further ado, we hope you're encouraged by what Jolene has to share.
I'm Jolene Brandt, and I have my husband, Chuck, who we have been together for 13 years, married for 8. I became a Christian 3 months after we got married, and he did not. So being on a mission in my marriage has been challenging, and ultimately it's brought me to a place of relying on God a lot more. And let me tell you, being on mission in your marriage is rough any day, but during a pandemic quarantine situation, when you see each other 24/7, you don't have an off switch. You don't. You are on mission 24/7 with your significant other, and it's challenging. It's brought me to the end of myself more than once, which has been where I've seen God really move and grow and work in our marriage. We had a rough patch right before this pandemic, and people would make jokes like, well, it'll go one way or the other. And God has really just blessed us with this time. It has not been easy, but I have seen God work in it. I have seen God move in my husband's heart for the first time in 8 years. But during this time, I have seen him just question God and wrestle with things. And it's been interesting. I've watched myself show understanding and compassion and love in ways that I know are not from me, because I want to I want to say mean things to him sometimes, like when he chews his food. Does anyone else experience that? Your significant other just chews it a little too much. But I've seen God really show me how much he loves my husband. And the other day, Friday morning, he said, I prayed last night. Wait. I got real excited and I needed to tone it down to really make the most of this situation. And so I said, oh, who'd you pray to? Just trying to keep it cool. And he said, God, duh. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now we know. And so what did you pray for? You guys, he prayed that he had COVID. The first time talking to God, since I've known him at least 13 years, he prayed that God would have infected him with this insane, massive, pandemic-causing virus. That was his prayer. That's the first time he talked to God, and that's what he asked for. And then he told me it's because he had the antibody test, that he was praying that he had already had it so that he would be immune to it. And that was just a window into where he is. He wanted to have peace in knowing that he would be okay. And ultimately, it's so that he could go back to work. He thought that he needed to go back to work to provide for us. He works for Disney. They furloughed him. He has unemployment benefits, but they haven't come through yet because the system is not up to date or something. And I work in entertainment, which we know is like scary, uncertain. And I had some jobs lined up that now, who knows? So we're really leaning on God's provision right now. And so my husband's prayer was just a glimpse into the miracles that God is doing through this pandemic. You have to sometimes really seek them out, use a magnifying glass to see them, but God is at work in this time, and I see it in my family. I see it in my daughter, who had to have a quarantine birthday, and somehow I got funfetti cake and made cupcakes for her. Thank you, God, for funfetti cake. Yeah, I've just really seen God move during this time and provide not just, financially, but spiritually, physically. We are safe and healthy, and we're able to stay home, and we're able to spend time with one another, which, is the biggest blessing, but also the biggest challenge. And I just like that when I am challenged the most, it gives me the most opportunity to go to God, because I can't do this by myself, for sure. And I'm encouraged that this time has also brought my husband into realizing that he may need something beyond himself as well. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful in God. I'm leaning into his grace every day, and just counting my blessings, even with a microscope. If I have to, I'm going to hold tight to those, and I'm going to hold on to God for dear life, because it's a wild ride, you guys.